Well, welcome. I am glad to see you all here for this introduction to our upcoming advanced practicum, which I've been waiting to tell you about because I'm very excited. What we're going to do this year hadn't been done before by us, at least, and maybe by anyone. We are working with people who are already doing breath work, but bringing to you the latest that we have found in research and practice. And so, in essence, we're going to be bringing you the latest news and get your reactions to that, and also develop further, because anytime we join together with this kind of work, we bring to it our fresh spirit. We bring to it the new creativity that happens when people join together. So I'd like to start with a little centering opening meditation. And what I'll ask you to do, if you're comfortable, is to let your eyes close and focus on a ball of light, radiant energy at the base of your spine. This is your life force, your kundalini, your prana, as it were, which is at your disposal and is ready to serve you as you consciously use it. I'll ask you to bring that ball of light energy with your intention and your breath up the back of your body on the inhale to the top of your head. And then on the exhale, let it cascade down the front of your body, back to the base of your spine. And then keep a little circle going without pause, inhaling up the back and exhaling down the front. And this is, as it were, smoothing out your energy field. This indeed is a form of breath work, because breath work simply means modulating your breath with a conscious intention. And so let's have this intention be to nurture ourselves, to bring our spirits together, and to join in co-creating an energy that not only fills us with light and love, but radiates from us into our world. And that, in essence, is the definition of a breath worker, someone who has learned to use intentional breath and to share it with others. And then, if you would, for a moment, breathe into the center of this circle that you've just created, which is like the nucleus. And in this center, we can more clearly hear our own guidance. Ask that you receive what you need today in our time together talking about advanced breathwork. And that you take whatever is useful for you and share with your community and our planet. And then ask for something special. Listen to what it is that you are here to receive and perhaps to share. Again, listen with your heart to the voice of your guidance. And then thank the spirit of breath. And with a few deep and clearing breaths, bring yourself back, relaxed and open. Well, welcome. I would like to introduce my co-trainer in this advanced practicum. And I'm going to let Laura share with us what it is that excites her about our working together in the advanced practicum.
Well, I feel really excited because, the journey of becoming a space holder in this work and expanding as a space holder is so much richer in community. And I think about this particular offering, as Jim has shared, that has never happened before, as something that I would have really loved in my own process of becoming a breath worker and really expanding in this work. And I think that for me, I know my skills as a space holder have deepened considerably by being in these communal spaces where, yes, Jim and I will bring some material around some specific topics and go a little bit deeper into those topics, but also where each of you are bringing questions about those topics, about your own breathwork practice, meaning how you practice breathwork with yourself and what's coming up there, the practice with clients, paid or not, practice clients or professional clients. And that dialogue, which is such a big part of this particular offering, is having a good chunk of every call, every session, being this dialogue around the questions that each person brings to the session. And I know for me, that's enriched my capacity as a space holder. It's enriched the tool and skill set that I have, in part because people brought things that had never happened in terms of my own clients. So getting to hear about that and how someone approached that, and then getting to hear wisdom from, in the case of, I was in a group, it wasn't an advanced practicum, but it was a group supervision with Jim and another one of the trainers in Jim's school, Terry, but getting their veteran feedback and wisdom around that. So yeah, I feel really excited, and I feel really passionate about having spaces where we can come together and talk about the things that you're learning and the things you're wanting to understand more as you're holding space for people in breathwork.
I'm excited to do this with you, Laura, because you bring something special now into the field of breathwork that can be shared with more folks. And that is your experience of having done breathwork online for so long and with large numbers of people, and things that you continually learn about the medium of the internet, doing quality breathwork. In the training that we did several weeks ago, all of the people who were doing it online, because it was a hybrid training, it was in person and online, all of the people who were online reported having as much of a quality of experience as they could imagine even getting in person. So you were so good at making that online experience wonderful. And this is part of each topic that we will go over in the advanced practicum, is learning the techniques and the ways to have the medium work for us the best, whether it's in person or online. Also, the practicum format that we're going into affords us an opportunity, as you were suggesting, to teach in a different way. So indeed, the format of the practicum is that even before we get on, you will be sent materials, some of which we ask you to go over before the session, which have to do with a theme of the session. And this is not a vast amount of materials. This is briefly things that you can look at and kind of whet your appetite and also get your juices going about the topic for that particular session. And then we will also add a bunch of resources, things that people can look into given their interest in that topic. We will present on that topic for the first portion of the practicum session. And then everyone who is part of the practicum will bring in their questions, their comments, and things that are happening for them in their practice. And so the teaching then will come from real circumstances at that point. We could, of course, either Laura or I could spend the 2 hours just talking about the topic, but that would be what we think is interesting to other people and what's interesting to us, which may not serve everyone. That's why this is such a beautiful format, in that we are sparked by the questions and the comments and the sharings of people that come in. And I often learn as much as anyone else in this kind of a format. I would like to just briefly give an overview of each of the sessions, and then we'd like to open it up for questions and perhaps things that we haven't covered. The first topic is on trauma-informed practice. Now, there are so many courses now about trauma-informed this and that, and we have a full 8-hour seminar on trauma, which I'm actually quite proud of, because it is not just the theory of trauma and how it works neurologically in the brain, but very precisely giving tools that people use in dealing with trauma in breathwork. Because one of, just as Laura brings in her expertise in working online, I can also bring in my expertise as being a psychotherapist and a clinical psychologist who has to continue to keep my practice and learning up. And so the practice and learning that are cutting edge for me is what I will be sharing. Taking an overview of trauma, there is a gold standard for working with trauma in therapy, but it's something that has not been, let's say, put front and center in a lot of teaching about trauma-informed helping or therapy. And that is the stages that one should go through in dealing with someone working with trauma. And the stages are very clear. It's not esoteric, but they're often overlooked, because when people come in with trauma, or if it comes up in a breathwork session, the tendency is to want to dive into it. Let's get into that. Let's find out what that is and release the triggers and open up that implicit only memory that has locked that person in a state of frozenness around events in their life. But if they are not prepared for that ahead of time or on the spot for how to resource themselves, going into it too fast and too deep can actually be detrimental. And so learning the signs of how a person is presenting themselves in breathwork or even in coaching that tell you, the practitioner, okay, they are activated in their sympathetic nervous system to a degree that pursuing the interior work, or even asking questions about what are you feeling in your body right now? What do you know is actually causing them to constrict or to jam up even further. So contrary to what you may think, it's important at times to take their awareness outside of their body. It's important for them to use their exterior receptors until they can regulate and come back to dual awareness. That is, they can look at what is the traumatic event at the same time as they're staying resourced and have the tools to bring themselves out of it. So knowing when to, as Babette Rothschild, who's been working with this for many, many years as a master psychotherapist, said, knowing when to put on the brakes and helping people to know how to put on their own brakes in dealing with trauma. Babette has even given a chart, which I haven't seen anyplace else. And I just, as long as I've been working with trauma, I have not seen a chart like this of the physical symptoms as well as the verbal and all that on a spectrum of a person being underregulated to frozen on the other side. And what is the sweet spot, as it were, where they can work most effectively with trauma. My privilege is to be able to bring this knowledge and awareness to the field of breathwork. So that's why I'm excited, because we'll also find out from people in the practicum what their experiences are, and if they indeed confirm this theory or not. And we'll all share and grow in that work together. In November, we will look at body reading and bioenergetic release techniques. And I've been doing this since the 1970s in work with Alexander Lowen and have translated it into breathwork. And frankly, I'm very proud of being able to translate Alexander Lowen's techniques and even, as it were, update them into the practice of breathwork. But I haven't had the experience of working with these bioenergetic techniques online. And here's where Laura's experience comes in. And because she has her whole bag of tricks, as it were, and how to deal with people and work with them online. And now I more and more am infusing things that I years ago would have thought, well, we could never do that online. For a rage release, for example. But again, Laura has brought to the table how you prepare someone with working with online to have their safe space and have resources. Because yes, we're the practitioner, not right there in the room with them, but we can set it up so that they can feel that safety and have these resources available to them should they get into a place where it starts to get into too much sympathetic nervous system activation and not enough parasympathetic system to be able to de-escalate anything that gets triggered. The third of the 4 months, we'll be looking at handling ethical issues and challenging clients. Well, again, this sounds nice in theory, but where ethical issues and difficulties with clients come in is actually on the hoof practice. You've got to have examples of that. There is no rule book of ethics that you can memorize and learn, or what to do in every circumstance that a client presents. But you can have principles, tools that you work with. We just had some plumbing difficulties in our house. And I thought, well, Jim can fix that. And so he takes his pipe wrench and he goes down to, our house was built in 1907. And some of the plumbing is from then. And okay, I'll just, whoops, all of a sudden, it's apparent to me that I have this tool, but I don't know how to use it in the expert way for a device like this that was put in probably in the 1920s. So I had to call in the expert. And it took them several days to fix it. And I thought, oh, I was going to do this in a few minutes. So it's good to have experts who have used the tools and who can cite examples that are applicable, and then also to know when to call in someone else. To know when, wait a minute, this isn't in the scope of my practice, which is also part of ethics. So knowing, no, this is not something I should be handling. And the best service I can give to my client is to talk to a supervisor, or even in some cases, refer them to someone else. Then we have in our toolbox, not just various techniques, but we have experience. And we have other resources on the outside. And these aren't the only topics that we're going to be talking about this time, but these are main ones that we want to highlight because we think they're important. In January, we're going to look at your practice building, your maintenance and growth. And here's where your input is really going to be important. Both Laura and I have maintained a practice over the years, and we built a practice. But you know, that ground keeps shifting. Like all of it, I know many breath workers as well as therapists who, when the pandemic hit, yeah, they had used Facebook before and they knew how to email things, but all of a sudden now switched their practice that differently. And if the old neurons weren't pliable enough, they went through many rough times of knowing how to continue to serve people and keep their practice adaptable to the circumstances in life. So we are devoting 1 month to helping people specifically with their unique issues. So Laura, do you want to add more to that?
Not in terms of more in-depth information. I think you covered that really well. One of the things that Jim and I have been talking about a lot lately is, what is one of the core messages or transmissions of therapeutic breath work. And what I've been coming away with is that it is this offering of principles around some specifics around like the container. How do you set up this container and ways to support that container? But introducing these different topics, the topics that Jim just walked through here, where the goal is really to empower you, not to say, here is the way you should do it in order to be a good breath worker, but to empower you to take this information and really make it your own, as well as to explore the things that feel really passionate for you. So that's part of the providing resources in addition to the themes that we'll cover in the class and the questions that you have. It's like the areas that you're really passionate about and that you want to dive deeper in, giving you the tools to do that. In my own experience, in a lot of different trainings and teachings, it's unusual to have that level of freedom while also within a container that's supporting you in that process. So having a place where you can bring your questions about these principles and how you're applying them on the ground, how you're applying them in your own life, how they're impacting you and your work, and getting feedback that helps you continue to evolve and grow as an empowered practitioner. Mm-hmm. And the other piece I'll bring in, I think important in this day that I imagine will be threaded through these sessions as well, is that in doing, in a sense, transformational work today, the expectation is to also have some sensitivity and looking at marginalized groups and like how to create more and more inclusivity as well as we're talking about these topics. So there was a time in spiritual work and transformative work where you could really just be like, well, that's just not what I'm going to do. I'll be over here working with my people. And now, so many of us are feeling very called to do more and to really create inclusive environments. And it's imperfect and it's evolving and it's humbling and it's also incredibly beautiful and part of the healing of humanity overall. And so I imagine that this will kind of thread through as well what we're doing here in this space.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Laura. All right, let's open it up. Let's check in with another Laura. Laura, what questions, comments do you have around what has been presented and the advanced practicum?
Well, I'm excited to deepen my skills. And so I'm wondering, there are some topics that were addressed in the last practicum, that it's some topics that sound familiar to me from the last workshop that I participated in, for instance, ethics, that sort of thing. And I'm wondering if there's going to be a deepening of that information.
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent question. Well, I'll let Laura talk about that because she was the leader of the last practicum.
Yes, absolutely, Laura. First of all, because I was coming on late, I didn't get a chance to say this, but so yay to see you. Yes, this is intended to be new material. So, for example, there were a number of different pieces that we talked about in the practicum regarding trauma. And what we're bringing here in this advanced practicum is new material around trauma. Similar to ethics, like there's kind of like the baseline ethical principles, but then how are we looking at that within the context of today and very specific practice? And Jim and I have lots of examples we can give, but you will probably bring things too.
And I'm really excited about some things that I've discovered in my own process that I want to bring in along with breathwork and experiment.
Yes.
With. Yeah. So yay.
Yes. Well,
Stephanie.
Hi.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi. So I'm so happy to be here. I feel, I have to be honest, really nervous and vulnerable. Being recorded, it's fine. I'm fine being recorded, but yeah, I'm having a really hard time in general, and was at the training in August, but made it back to New Orleans and then had to leave for the hurricane and evacuated, and life feels completely destabilized right now for many reasons, which I won't get into here. It really feels, from everything you've said, that it would be really, really beneficial for me to learn from others who are in more advanced stages of their practice, and to be able to bring those questions, and also really for the structure of having different material to continue working with each month. And yeah, so I'm very interested, and you know, I think I have a fear of being seen and really starting this practice on my own. And I've been sort of under Kate Becker's wings here in New Orleans, and have done groups with her. And it's been easy for me to sort of jump into the community that she's created, but it's been a lot harder for me to just start doing my own practice. So yeah.
Good. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And actually, you are demonstrating a lot of what you've learned which is being at home with what's really going on with you, rather than having to have a stiff upper lip and put on a front. And I can't really imagine how to try to start a business or a practice with hurricane after hurricane coming through your front yard. That is re-traumatizing in effect. And so you have underlined something that we didn't talk about, Laura alluded to, which is the importance of community, of breath, and having others that we can share with. Not that they have the answers for us or that they can rush down with a care package, but that they, you know that they're there, they understand, and they won't judge you for being real. I think you've demonstrated being a breath worker, just right now. You are a strong part of our community, and we are breathing with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Chris.
Yeah, I don't think I have any questions. It sounds really good. It sounds exciting. And I saw the emails come in, and I put it on the back burner to like look into it some more. So I'm glad that I saw that this call was happening today. I was thinking since the last practicum that I did want to join the advanced if I was able. So yeah, I'm excited about the opportunity.
Great. Chris, can I ask you, of the things that we talked about, which one sparks your interest the most? What attracts you?
The talking about the marginalized identities and communities is the thing that I would like to learn more about, and something that I've been looking into more as I explore my own identities, and especially this year. So I think that's the thing to me that, well, that and the deepening of like the trauma awareness as well. That was like one of my main questions for the last practicum, was like how trauma aware and everything, which I think was born out of my insecurity, like not wanting to hurt people, but also really just wanting to, I don't know, be the best practitioner that I can be, the best helper, holder of space or whatever. So I would say those are the two things.
Great. Thank you, Chris. And I would assume that it's not just insecurity which causes you to want to know more about it, but it's also your caring.
Yeah.
Truly not wanting to hurt others. And yes.
I have one more question. How many people will be in this practicum?
Well, we have a fairly narrow window in that we said that there's be a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 12. And because we wanted to hold this to where everyone had their opportunity to be heard and have their questions asked. Laura is even built in. She does so magnificently with online work, that a way for people to even send their questions in ahead of time, so it gets Jim and Laura on the ball thinking about things.
Or if you're unable to make it on a particular session and do have a question, because the calls will be recorded, and so, you know, your energy will be with us regardless of your physical presence not being there at a session.
We do have spots open in both the 11 o'clock and in the 7 o'clock Central times. Those times are set up specifically because 11 o'clock Central is accommodating to people in Europe, elsewhere on the planet. Question had even come up at some time, well, you say I'm signed up for the 7 o'clock and all of a sudden something comes up, I can't be there. Could I join the 11 o'clock? And again, Laura has made provision for a certain amount of that flexibility that we can have. And there will be a waiting list if we reach that number 12.
Yeah. This is meant to be an intimate group so that there is space for everyone, and there is space for shared dialogue around the questions that come up. So it's very intentional to keep the number at 12 for each group. And it is, for lack of a better phrase, first come, first served in a sense, with the registration. So as Jim shared, we'll start a waiting list if we spill over that 12 for each of the morning and evening groups.
We'll send this out to folks who weren't able to join us in person, but who are interested in the information, and you can contact us with further questions. So.